I don't think that we've ever featured a specific medal before on HutVent. So this year, we thought we would take a look at the Military Cross. Now, the Military Cross was actually instituted on the 28th of December 1914, but we decided last year that that was a bit too close to the end of the year, really, for us to feature it. However, the first 71 officers and 27 senior warrant officers were gazetted in the London Gazette with their awards for the Military Cross on the 1st of January 1915, which makes it a nice 1915 story for us this year. Now, until then, the award for officers had been the Distinguished Service Order, and the award for other ranks had been the Distinguished Conduct Medal. But by the end of 1914, it was decided that there was a requirement for medals that were slightly lower in scale than the DSO and the DCM. So the Military Cross was introduced for officers, and the Military Medal was introduced for the other ranks. The Military Cross is a gorgeous looking medal, this lovely cross design by Henry Burke, featuring the George V cipher in the centre and a series of imperial crowns on each of the arms of the cross, with a lovely purple and white ribbon designed by Violet Ponsonby, who was Lady Sysonby. And in its original form, the back was completely plain. There was nothing on it at all. There was no clue as to who it had been awarded to. In 1938, the decision was made to add the year for which it was awarded on the back, and that remained the case until 1957. And since 1984, it's also had the name put on the back as well. So at least now, if you came across one, you'd know who it had been awarded to. But sadly, once these get separated from their provenance, then it's impossible to know who they were originally awarded to. The Military Cross is still being awarded today. In 1993, the government decided that it was a bit elitist to have medals that were only able to be awarded to officers, missing the point completely that the Distinguished Conduct Medal and the Military Medal could only be awarded to other ranks, so they came with their own elitist cachet as well. But anyway, so since 1993, these have been awarded to people of all ranks. And since those original 71 officers and 27 warrant officers in 1915, 52,000 military crosses have been awarded, which is quite remarkable. This particular one belonged to Charles Turner Packard of Bramford near Ipswich. He was a director of Packard's the fertiliser firm, later Packard and Fison, and eventually Fison's. And he'd been an enthusiastic officer in the 1st Volunteer Battalion of the Suffolk Regiment long before the war. And by September 1914, he was an officer in the 8th Service Battalion before transferring to the 9th Service Battalion, who were Kitchener Volunteers. He wins his award during the Battle of Loos on the 26th of September 1915. As the troops are retiring, he stays behind to rescue a wounded soldier and carries him back, despite the fact that he was already knocking on a bit. He was quite an age even by then. It turned out that, according to family legend, he'd done a bit of a deal with his brother, who was another director of Packard's, and said, look, if I go off at the beginning of the war and do my bit, after a year or so, if I come home, are you happy for me to then take over the business and you go off and do your bit? And that's what they'd agreed to do, according to Charles. But when he came home, funnily enough, his brother decides to not honour his part of the bargain, refuses to let Charles take over the director's job, and refuses to go off to war. So poor old Charles Turner Packard ends up without any proper role in the company, and really nothing to show for his war services except a bad case of sciatica and his Military Cross, which we're very proud and pleased to have in our collection.